Hey everybody, happy Memorial Day, and welcome to the Power Hour of Love. I'm Charboil, and this is...
El Bandito.
Oh, El Bandito, man, we got an awesome show lined up for tonight. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
We absolutely do, guys. We have such a fun and exciting night tonight. We have a Q&A with three of the biggest and baddest comic book legends, man. This is so cool. We've got Roland Mann, the creator of Cat and Mouse, the writer. He's doing a whole big revival for it on a Kickstarter, and he's put together just a crack team to put this thing together, guys, and they agreed to come and interview with us and take some questions from the audience, guys, so we'll be keeping an eye out in the comments there, so feel free to throw some questions up. These guys are comic industry experts, man. They've been around the block from Malibu Comics to Marvel Comics to DC Comics, man. They worked in the Ultraverse. We've got some work on Gotham and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We got Kevin Gallagher doing some work with that, and Barbara Kaalberg is here, Dean Zachary is here, and they've done work in both DC Comics and Marvel and all sorts of stuff. I mean, this is a wealth of knowledge, and you guys are getting a great opportunity to talk to some real industry professionals here, man. We're happy to bring it to you. We're happy that you guys have joined us tonight. They've also agreed to play the Name That Game tournament with us for a little bit, so that should be super fun. We're going to test their video game knowledge, and they may be able to give you guys some hints or some answers on the games that we've got some points for tonight. Otherwise, I think without any further ado, what do you say we get them in here?
Let's bring them in.
Let's do it. All right. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good. How y'all doing?
Great.
Oh, man, we're doing fantastic. First of all, thank you guys so much for being here. And a quick thanks. I think all of us can say a quick thanks to all the men and women in the armed forces who, pay the ultimate price for us and that we're celebrating today. And, that's just super great. And got to take a moment to throw up some love.
Absolutely.
I'm a soldier, so I appreciate that.
Absolutely, El Bandito. And like El Bandito said, thank you guys so much for joining us on this great Memorial Day evening. And yeah, we're just so stoked. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Well, I'm Roland. I'm the writer and the letterer for the Cat and Mouse #1 issue that our Kickstarter has literally less than 2 days to go now. So that's me. And the excitement was with the visuals, though.
Well, that comes to me. I'm Dean Zachary. I am the penciler of Cat and Mouse, and I am just thrilled to be joined by these two members of the team, and we are just kicking butt with this Kickstarter. And that leads me to...
I'm Barbara Kaalberg, and I am the inker of the team. We are old friends from way back in the Malibu days, so the opportunity to hook up with a team of this caliber, I couldn't pass it up.
Absolutely, man. Like we said, we were just here tonight with a wealth of knowledge, lots of great experience. Like we threw out there, we said some Malibu days, some Marvel days. We just know your guys is just the list of stuff that you guys have worked on is just so amazing.
And definitely, for some of the millennials out there watching, maybe you guys don't remember Malibu Comics, but you might remember Men in Black, which started off back there in Malibu Comics, man. So why don't you guys tell them a little bit about what it's like at Malibu and what people can look for from some of those classic books that they had?
Oh, yeah. Malibu was, so what Malibu's biggest legacy is probably Image Comics. Now, they didn't start Image Comics, but they were, I think the official term was publisher of record. And so what happened, Malibu had been around since 1986. That was when they were formed. Several imprints. They had Eternity, they had Aircell, they had Adventure Comics, and I think there was just a Malibu Graphics imprint as well. But they were all under the sort of the umbrella of Malibu Comics. Well, when the Image guys, when the founders, the 7 guys, when they decided to jump ship from Marvel and DC, obviously, it was just 7 creators, and they didn't have a company. They didn't have, they didn't have a headquarters or anything like that. But Rob already had a relationship with the Malibu publisher, Dave Olbrich. And so Dave Olbrich jumped on it. He said, hey, Rob, we can take care of you guys. You make your books. We'll publish the Image stuff. We'll do all the business stuff, the accounting and the shipping and the dealing with distributors until such time as you guys can get together a staff. And so I want to say it was for don't hold me to the amount of time here, but I want to say it was approximately 10 months that all of the Image stuff was published through the Malibu Comics office, and that 10 months then allowed Image to hire, you know, an editor-in-chief, someone to deal with solicitation, someone to deal with diamonds, someone to deal with manufacturing. Basically, it allowed them to hire a staff.
Wow.
That's probably the biggest claim to fame. And of course, Malibu also did Dinosaurs for Hire. They did the Ultraverse, which is what a lot of people tend to remember, probably second to the Image stuff. There's a big contingent of fans on Facebook that are always screaming for, you know, Marvel to bring the Ultraverse back, which is kind of funny. They're very passionate about the Ultraverse. Dean and Barb both did some fantastic work with the Ultraverse as well. So it was a great place to be. It was a young, very agile company, and that was one of the things that Marvel liked about the company, is that Malibu could make moves pretty quickly, where, you know, Marvel and DC, they're both giants. It takes them a long time to you know, if they get something in their head they're going to do, it takes them a long time to make it happen. Malibu could make it happen pretty quick because it was, like I said, it was young, very agile.
Now, is that like a red tape, like there's too much red tape to go through, or just because the people who worked there had more freedom?
You mean the people who were there at Malibu had more freedom?
Yes.
I think there's probably a little bit of both. Malibu. So I like to tell people this. Okay, so there was a people ask me what was the difference from being an editor at Malibu and the difference from being an editor at Marvel, and I'll tell you this: if a creative team brought an idea to me and they said, "Hey, we want to do this. We want Malibu to do this." I mean, obviously, assuming that I liked it, I could take that proposal and go to the powers that be. Their question would be this. Now, you got to listen real close to the question. Their question would be, can we make money? And if the bean counters would look at it and they'd add it all up and do that kind of stuff too. If their answer was yes, the decision at Malibu was generally, okay, let's publish it.
Okay.
Right? When Marvel came along, the question changed just a little bit, but it's significant. Okay. The question became, how much money can we make?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's not a big deal, but it really is, because Malibu's concern was like, let's get out a lot of fun stuff. If this is a project that we believe in and we think that it will have fun, as long as we think that we can make money, even if it's not a lot, then we want to do it. Where Marvel, on the other hand, once we became part of Marvel, the question was, how much money can we make?
Sure.
And there were times when, okay, this is not enough money. We need it to make more money.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, like you said, when you guys worked on those older books at Malibu, did like we said, like you mentioned earlier, Cat and Mouse, which is what you guys are working on with your Kickstarter campaign, and like you said, you wrote that series back then. So now this upcoming Cat and Mouse series, this is a revival, or is it a brand new story as far as that legacy goes?
It's a brand new story. So for readers of the first volume, if they read all the way to the end, they know that we left the primary characters in Japan. As far as I'm concerned, that's where they're going to stay. This is I like to tell the older readers, there will be a lot of things that are familiar with this volume. Obviously, the world is going to be familiar. There's still going to be in New Orleans. It's still going to have the flavor. It's still going to have the tone and the spirit that the old Cat and Mouse had. It's still going to have that dark, sort of gritty, underworld. The two primary characters, Cat and Mouse, are completely different characters, though. Obviously, there are similarities because we want the book to be recognizable, but they're two completely different characters with different lives, different motivations, different futures ahead of them.
Nice.
There will be some secondary characters that some of the old readers will be familiar with, but let me be real quick to say that this is very new reader friendly. This is not the kind of thing that if someone's sitting there saying, "Oh, well, I didn't read the first volume, so I'm not interested in this." Nope. You don't have to be familiar with the first volume at all. You can dive right in and you're good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because I know that's kind of a big thing in comics today, especially with the legacy books they have at Marvel and DC that have a 700, 1,000 count continuity that people are afraid to kind of get into something because they're like, oh, there's all this history I have to know and all this stuff. So it's great that this is kind of a fresh take on the book, and it's not necessarily like a reboot or something. It's whole different characters in universe, so it is definitely very much a sequel, which is something we're huge proponents of. We don't want to see the same story 1,000 times. So
sequel is a great term for it, actually.
Yeah.
Sequel is a fantastic term.
Yeah, well, definitely, when we talk to Rob Anderson over at the Indie Advocates, he's all about, hey, man, no more reboots. Stop telling the same story. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about, the movie versions of Civil War and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Right.
They didn't need to tell us about Spider-Man and Uncle Ben and stuff all over again, you know? But we wanted to share something with you guys. It's a little bit of a special treat here because you mentioned readers not really being able to get their hands on the original volume, and if they didn't catch it, then maybe they can still enjoy this new series. But we actually went out and we got the entire miniseries here.
Whoa!
And
cool.
we got a copy of the original. You can see it's all 17 books plus the original promo. And we want to thank Captain Joel over at Big Dog Comics for helping us track these down. And we wanted to offer them up to whoever the 200th person is that signs up for your Kickstarter.
Oh, that's so cool.
So whoever that lucky person may be, they're getting this set courtesy of the Power Hour of Love.
Very cool.
We may read it first because I know I missed a couple of those in there. But
we're 9 pledges away from that. So
awesome.
I'm just checking the Kickstarter now, and we're at 191. So
fantastic.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
I very much hoped that you guys would be able to tell who the 200th person was because we wouldn't be able to know. But
I can, yes.
Cool. Well, that's great,
So,
guys.
yes.
But yeah, definitely. Feel free to let people know and let us know as soon as you get a number 200, man, and we'll ship this either to you guys or to them direct, whatever's easier for you guys. But we'll probably be mentioning this all throughout the night until we get to that 200 for you guys, all right?
Very cool.
Amazing. Thank you.
No problem. Well, okay,
Sounds great. Thanks.
No problem, guys. Thank you guys, because this book looks awesome. I mean, Roland, it was so great to meet you at the Daytona Beach Comic-Con, and when you told me about the book, the first thing I did was come home, check the Kickstarter, and sign up for Kickstarter for the first time in my life so I could pledge something and get my hands on the book because it looked so cool. And I was like, man, that's great. Like, I had no idea. Now I spent just a ridiculous amount of money pledging to other comics on there because I had no idea they were doing that. And I'm such a comic fan.
It's very much it's a whole other world.
Yes.
And I think, of course, Dean and Barb and I have talked about this for some time. Is that Kickstarter allows creators to have an alternate pathway to fans. Currently, and we won't go too deep on this political thing, but currently you really only have one way to get into the hands of fans, and that's through Diamond and comic shops.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kickstarter offers an alternate route to fans, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Yeah,
it seems like it's really great. Can you comment for us on how that differs from even the freedom that you would have gotten at Malibu? Because this has to be, carte blanche to do whatever you guys want. But again, you still have to appeal to an audience. So how do you kind of factor that together when you're not only writing, but working on the art?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and Barb likes to say, this is not the first rodeo for us. Maybe that's not her exact words. But, we've been doing this for a long time, all of us. And so we like to think that we're going into it with a set of lenses that says, okay, we've had the experience working on content for fans before. We've got a pretty good gauge for it. But this, we live in the day of instant social media stuff where you can post something and immediately you're getting, likes and hearts and reactions to art. And let me back up real quick and say that you mentioned something about the look for it. I can't take any credit for the look. That's all Dean and Barb and Kevin, and I feel like I've won the artist lottery there. So I'm very quick to say that these guys are doing a fantastic job. Every day my email shows up with something, I just go, oh man.
Well, I have to say, looking at the Kickstarter page and being able to see not just art from the book, but the progression of art from the book was, to me, like one of the best things about your guys' page, because not a lot of other comics have that. So what's that like for you, Dean, to share that kind of process that people often never really get to see like your original pencils by themselves. How does that feel to get that sort of exposure?
Well, I've always loved seeing process, and when I was coming up through the ranks and learning the craft itself, one of my favorite things to do is look at people's sketches and sketchbook and development ideas and concepts, because it gave you an insight into how people think and how to concept something from just script to page and bring it to life. And one of the things I love about Roland's writing style is it's very much like screenplay writing in that it's very open and it blocks where the characters have to go, what has to happen at the beginning of the page and by the end of the page, but everything else is left up to me. So I really get to art direct, design the location, design the people themselves, obviously the uniforms, the costumes, the settings, the lighting, and I love doing that sort of thing. And I was influenced so much by film growing up, particularly visual stylists like Ridley Scott, famous for things like Alien and Blade Runner,
sure.
and of course the Star Wars universe and so on. And so I've always seen, when I read a script dry like that, I'm always visualizing, okay, I'm seeing this as a $300 million movie, in my head already. So I don't think of any limitations whatsoever. So I would be a nightmare for anybody producing in Hollywood. But luckily here in this creative world, it costs the same to draw, a really kind of quiet scene as it does to draw, a whole stadium full of people being attacked by aliens. So, it's just a great opportunity. And what I loved about this was that the setting of New Orleans gave me the open area to play, a stage, so to speak, where I could create an environment that was actually a character, because New Orleans is very rich already. And so I knew when I read the script that what I could do was actually bring the environment to life as a character. So you feel that Spanish moss and the humidity and the undercurrent of sort of a supernatural tone. Maybe there's some voodoo in the background, and you can smell the food and the nightlife, and you're walking down Bourbon Street and there's that what's going to happen next excitement to it. And I wanted to bring that into the art along with the characters themselves. And Roland and I decided conceptually early on that this would be, superhero realism, action crime thriller with a little bit of supernatural thrown in for flavor, and again, just the playground that I'm allowed to go into and conjure up whatever imagery is in my head. And one of the freeing elements of working directly with Kickstarter and going directly to the fans and a team like this is that you're wide open. I don't try to calculate, okay, are the fans going to like this? I just go by instinct. If I think it's cool, it's likely that everybody's going to think it's cool. And I like
we're comic fans too.
Like that.
Yeah. That's always a pretty good gauge, right? If you like it, someone else is gonna.
Yeah. Right.
And that's worked so far, and I find that very liberating, because I know that there are other approaches and they don't work for me as well, because once I start calculating, it sort of drains all the spark and fire and energy from the concept. And in order to keep that alive, I have to be, just really fired up about what I'm doing. And so if I'm excited about it, I don't second guess it at all. I just roll with that instinct. And so far that's worked with issue 1. And, I'm already started on issue 2, character designs and covers and so on. And it's just going to get better and better as it goes. I felt a serious artistic growth from page 1 to page 22. The entire book is done, by the way. That's another thing
Nice.
I'll let Roland address later. But it's all finished and it's ready to go. There's not going to be any delay when it ships. You guys are going to get it. But the thing is, as we go into issue 2, there's already a tone and an atmosphere for the book, and the team has made that happen. And I couldn't be happier with it.
Well, I have to say, you speak so much about the freedom of to express yourself in the book and to kind of take your own direction with it and bring to life this city. And man, that is awesome. Full disclosure, New Orleans is the only town I've ever been arrested in. I'm not a super big fan. But hey, Mardi Gras makes you do things, so I shouldn't hold it against them. But
we did get pickpocketed on Bourbon Street. So.
Yeah. So, but it's the perfect place to do a crime drama. So we should definitely mention that. One of my favorite things about the book is that it's not strictly a superhero book. It's more like a crime drama and has this kind of noir element to it. That's really interesting because it's noir, but it's definitely, when you compare it to the original books, it definitely has this very kind of like rad punk 80s feel to it too. That's kind of the subtext for it. So it's this awesome combination of stuff. And I just wanted to mention, Dean, about what you were saying and the freedom to express yourself in the books. That being said, we all know that there's still rules, kind of guidelines to convey a story visually to people. And one of my favorite things to do with my super comic nerd buddies is, we'll go to the comic shop and flip through books without reading any of the words and see if you could still roughly follow the story. So being able to look at some of the pages that you have and see that, you're doing this great, very artistic style, but still following these guidelines, still making a story that's so comprehensible in every avenue. It's just fantastic, guys. And I think that goes from the experience that you all have, of course. And I just wanted to mention to all the people watching that, on your guys' Kickstarter, you have a pledge reward where you'll personally look at people's work, critique it, and help them kind of get better at their craft. And I can't stress enough how much of a great opportunity that is and how cool of you guys to offer that up.
I mean, this is the kind of thing to get someone like Barb to look at your inks, for instance. This is the kind of thing people often travel, hundreds and hundreds of miles to go to a convention to stand in a line for hours, hoping that you'll get someone to look at your portfolio and to offer you feedback. So no, you're absolutely right to have the opportunity to have, say Barb look at your inks or Kevin look at your colors is a fantastic opportunity. It really is.
You know it, man, and definitely we're popping here in the comments over here on Facebook, and we went ahead and we pasted the link directly to Kickstarter, so all of our fans out there are watching, you can jump on there, throw down some pledges, and like they said earlier, we're getting pretty close to that number 200, so if you guys hit it, this could be yours.
Yeah, the number 200
right.
pledge. We don't care if it's $4 or $500, whatever you guys pledge. If you're pledging to it, number 200 is going to get this lovely gift from the Power Hour to show our support for Cat and Mouse and for the Kickstarter indie community that you guys are just supporting. And being that you guys have definitely, you've done like the real deal work. You've been at the Marvels, you've been at the DCs. That's pretty much where a lot of people are heading. But you're still like, well, I'm going to do my indie thing. I'm going to support indie people. I mean, that's awesome, because a lot of people kind of get where they want to be and forget about everybody else. So it's great that you guys would take time for a small show like ours, and come and hang out with us. So thank you guys so much for that. That's really super cool.
Well, yeah, we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Well, Barb, I feel like we're leaving you hanging over there. Do you mind if I call you Barb? Is that all right?
No, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. You look really nice. I like your hair and stuff too. But we'll Skype later. It's fine.
We of course call her Mistress of Inks.
Oh,
Yeah.
No. I am the Empress.
Oh, sorry, Empress.
The Empress.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
I know. I was getting lost in dirty thoughts on the Mistress of Inks. I was like, oh, that's what's up.
Yeah, I think you talking about her made me go to the Empress of Inks.
Well, I know. Doing inking, there's a lot of decision making in sort of adding the depth and the shadow over pencils. And I mean, I've heard of inkers just destroying great pencils. So how do you kind of feel about getting people an inside look at your process and seeing what decisions you make?
Well, if anybody's gone out and looked at my DeviantArt page, you'll see a huge variety of ink styles on there, and that's because I'm extremely versatile. I don't ever try to drown out my penciler. That's not my job. My job is to meld my talents with the pencilers and make us both shine. I never want to have a book that somebody doesn't recognize the pencils because, oh, that's Barb Kaalberg's inks over it. No, it's got to be a collaboration. And when we first started this book, I was still in a very much of a DC mindset. And Dean has a habit of breaking the panel all the time. And he had to actually...
And bleeds. He likes bleeds.
Oh, my God. He had to tell me, Barb, you can bust out of the panels, bleed it, and I'm not going to get mad. And I really had to readjust my mindset in order to do that. I love texturing. I will pick up a pen or a brush or a marker or even my thumbprint to get the kind of texturing that I want. And it's all a kind of a mindset. You have to actually feel the texturing. It's very hard to describe, but you have to actually feel the texture when you're putting it on the page in your head.
Yeah, that sounds very, very deep, though. I like that. You guys are very deep about this this process you guys go through. You kind of half expect, oh, these guys have been around the block. They're probably like, yeah, we just smack whatever we want on the page. But it's great to see you really, show a lot of passion for your work. And I want to tell you, Barb, we have kind of a running gag on our show that every time we do segments about old school Marvel stuff and Marvel history, we always find these pictures of Jack Kirby where he's always working and he's always behind we've never found a picture of him just normal, like just hanging out. And I love that you're in your studio. We can see your table right there behind you. And we're like, yeah, you took 2 seconds to turn and talk to us, and you're probably going to get right back to it. So we salute your commitment there, too.
Well, trust me, I wouldn't be inking with a white shirt on. So I did that.
Yeah.
See, now
so she's saying it, she dressed up for the podcast.
Oh, no, let's see. I'm so flattered now. But again, that's one of those great tips that we probably wouldn't get, without talking to an industry expert. Don't wear a white shirt. I would have never thought of that, but you say it, and it's like, well, that makes a ton of sense. So if you guys ever had questions, if you're trying to crack into the field, you're trying to work on your portfolios or your work, man, go out there and check out their Kickstarter page. There's a link in our description, and you guys can pledge reward a kind of consultation with them. Well, they will look over your work and kind of critique it for you and help you get better. They're not just going to slam you. I'm sure you seem too cool to be like, it sucked, bro. They're going to give you that creative criticism that you really want to break into the next field.
Helping.
Yeah, and
I've done that, by the way. This is crap.
You've had people do that to you?
You are in the wrong industry.
You've had people do that to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow, man, that's rugged.
Give you good advice. You gotta sift through the chaff and find the little strands of gold in there.
I'll tell you, I do graphic design a little bit, so I made a lot of these screen displays and everything on screen. And when I was in college for that, definitely, we had one professor that anything you showed him, he's like, you'll embarrass yourself if you put that out. And I'm like, dude, like, you can't be like, hey, maybe change up this. No, you'll embarrass yourself. That was his answer. I was like, damn, man. So if you guys want a creative critique that's really going to be insightful from professionals, man, go check out their Kickstarter page. If you guys want an awesome comic that's filled with content that a group of very passionate people made, go and get the book, man. Even for $4, you guys can get a PDF version of the whole book. It's not a lot of money to spend to get a full comic book issue. And then it's not much more, I think $10, and you get an actual print copy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now I know I signed up for the $25 one, which I think included like a special cover.
Yes, yeah, it's all the autographs. I don't have it open in front of me, but all the autographs, the PDF of some behind-the-scenes stuff. So you get some sketches. You get a copy of the script of the plot that Dean drew from. So yeah, there's a bunch of goodies at that level. But you mentioned the $4 and the $10 pledges.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted these to be, we set these at this level because we know there's some people going to look at it and they're going, yeah, I don't know, $25 for an autographed copy, kind of cool, but I don't know who these people are. I don't know who the characters are. And okay, yeah, I know some of the stuff that they've done, but man, I don't know. So yeah, $4 gets you the PDF of the first issue. Just no frills. It's just the comic. Here it is. You get to read it. Now, part of what our thought process behind that is because this is going to be a 4-issue miniseries, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is just the first issue. So part of our thought process is, look, you try this thing out for $4, you're going to like it, and when we run our Kickstarter for number 2, you're going to say, okay, I want all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I want a sketch from Dean, or I want an original page of Barb's inks. I want something that's above and beyond this PDF. But the PDF is something that they can try out for very little out of their pocket.
That's awesome, man. No, it sounds really cool, and like you said, just having that ability out there. Because when you walk into a comic shop, you're going to drop at least a good $4 now to get get a
like
comic.
every book's $3.99.
Exactly. So for you guys to offer that, that's just so cool, man. I think that's great. Oh, and I can see our buddy Bishop out there. He's definitely thrown down for the graphite edition. I know we were taking a look at that, online, and we were just like, man, that looks so cool.
Absolutely, guys. I mean, they're just really cool pledge rewards, really cool stuff that you guys have set up. So what do you guys think in terms of the success of the Kickstarter so far? Is this really getting you guys pumped? Will you guys might do other series, or are you going to try to finish this one through and then maybe think about it?
Well,
so I'll go first.
Well, okay, hold on. Look, I'll focus this question here. Barb, I want to talk to you some more. But I saw you already have another Kickstarter that you're working on inks on, right? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
PHoL?
Yes.
With Mike Barron and Barry McLean Jr. Yeah, this is I'm doing two Kickstarters, and they have both been successful so far, so that says a lot. I really want to see this one through first before I'm jumping on the second issue of PHoL at the moment, so I'll be working on both of them at the same time, which is no problem. I'm used to multitasking, so.
Yeah, so you guys got to check that one out, too. I took a look at that. That looks like a super lot of fun, too. Like I said, I ran through a bunch of these things. I was like, well, up to 4 a.m. looking at Kickstarter comics. Dean, do you have any other works that you're working on right now you wanted to maybe throw a shout-out for?
Right now, this is the focus. This is where all my energy is going, because we want every issue to exceed the expectations that people have. So 2 is going to be better, 3 is going to be even better, and then 4 is going to be even better. And then, of course, we're talking about collecting them, and we'll see what happens beyond that. But from what we've done so far, I feel like we're going to be doing a lot more. So looking forward to it.
Well, that's great news.
In 48 hours, so that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
That is very cool.
Still just blows me away.
That's
ready.
Yeah, that's how you can tell people recognized, not only the original series, but all of your guys' individual talent. When they see a powerhouse pool of talent like that putting a book together, plus you guys are showing, hey, we've already got pages done, we've already got, pencils, inks, and stuff done. That's definitely. Let's grab that because these guys know what's going on.
Yeah, the book was mostly finished when we launched, and I think that was another key element, is that folks weren't concerned, oh, I'm going to be given this money, and then 6 months down the road, these guys are still doing it. I've seen plenty of Kickstarters go that way, and I've seen the bad press that these Kickstarters have gotten. So that was one of the things that we kind of decided early on, is that, we want to make sure that the book is going to be done. And we are, as Dean said earlier, we're done. It's finished. It's ready to go. Now, it wasn't that way when we launched, but it was mostly done. It was the kind of thing that we said, okay, look, we got 30 days. We know that we can finish this up in about 2 weeks. So our plan was, okay, about halfway through the Kickstarter, we should be completely finished, so that by the time the Kickstarter is done, we'll have no problem. With fulfillment. And like I said, we are completely done already.
I think I was inking the last page when we Kickstarted.
That's awesome.
Nice, yeah. So that sounds like a smart way to do it, because we've even, he has, because like I said, I never used Kickstarter before, but he's told me before about Kickstarters he signed up for, and then they never follow through on anything they're doing.
Yes, yeah.
And even times when you didn't get your money back or whatever from it,
And I guess in some cases it's under, sometimes it's just it's not going to be done right away, but it's the fact that you guys have your product and it's ready to pretty much fly off the shelves once, the Kickstarter's completed. That, like I said, that just, people can put so much more faith in that and know that, in the next few months they're going to get, or in maybe a matter of weeks, they're going to get to read, or maybe even days, they're going to get to read the new.
Another thing is that we've all been doing this for 30 years or more, and we're used to making deadlines. We're used to turning out a product. So you can pretty much rely on us.
Absolutely. No, I think the way you guys are doing it is so awesome. And like you said, when we were reading over the Kickstarter and stuff, like you said, the rewards are great, and like you said, just that knowing like, hey, you guys are ready to go, but there's still those awesome stretch goals that people can reach out and get. You guys want to tell us a little bit about some of those? Maybe we can keep pouring more and more over these next couple days that the Kickstarter's still open.
Yeah. We just got another backer, so thank you for whoever did that. So yeah, I was trying to get to the project actually. So I'll go through the ones that we unlocked already. So we've already unlocked 4 stretch goals, which is kind of exciting for us. We unlocked the first one. Sorry, I'm trying to scroll down and get to it. So the first one we unlocked was at 130 backers, and that was a PDF copy of basically a digital copy of the Demon Tales classic graphic novel. It's a 4-issue miniseries that Demon was a character in Cat and Mouse. He was a secondary character, but he's a very popular secondary character. So in the 90s, Paul Pelletier and I did a miniseries with him, and so this is the collected volume in black and white.
Nice.
Now, I will tell you a little secret. Shh. I'm working on getting it colored.
Oh,
so
man.
I'm still a few months away from that, but we are working on getting it colored. But anyway, so we unlocked that at 130 backers.
Well, is that Kevin that might do the color on that? Do we know?
No, that was not Kevin. No.
Okay. We do miss Kevin tonight. He couldn't join us, but we're sending some love to him out there.
No. Yeah. Oh, Kevin knows we love him. It actually is another Malibu. It is another former Malibu colorist actually doing it.
All right, nice.
And he told me that when I had asked him about it, he said, "Yeah, send me some of the art and let me peek at it." He saw it. He goes, "Oh, that's Paul Pelletier. Oh, I colored Paul when I was at Malibu." He goes, "Yeah, I'll do that." And so yeah, we're about. I've got about 3 issues of it done.
Nice.
Already. So it's still going to be a little while yet, but yeah. So anyway, that's something that we're working on. The second one we unlocked was a bookmark at 150 backers, and then a cool one we unlocked was a sticker at 170 backers, and we just unlocked a trading card, the first of a set. We decided that what we would do is create a set of Cat and Mouse trading cards for kind of each issue that we do, and so this is going to be card number 1, and that is the Widowmaker, who is the villain of the story. So there are 3 remaining stretch goals. They are 210 backers. Everybody at the print level, $20 print level and up, gets a print of the standard cover. At 230 backers, everybody, all pledges, will get an audio version of Cat and Mouse number 1.
Nice.
Wow.
The version that we're doing. And for those of you who are into classic stuff, hopefully you remember the Power Records. Remember that stuff at all? Power Records presents "And a Phoenix Shall Arise." No.
I'm lost on that.
All right.
I'll send you guys a link, and you will enjoy the heck out of it.
Heck yeah, send it
Absolutely.
our way.
Yeah. All it is basically, I had it in vinyl. I had a little, can't remember if it was a 45. No, it could have been a 45. Anyway, I had it in vinyl. But you just literally, you put the record on, and it would read the comic book to you with some extra sound effects. Right?
Oh,
Voice
cool.
actors
That's
did all the
cool.
voices.
Okay.
And you get some wind and some punching and shoes and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just audio with no visual to it at all.
Yeah. It's like an old time radio broadcast thing, sort of.
Very much so, yeah. And if you had the comics, of course, a lot of them came with the comics, but if you had the comics, you could look through your own comic. And I remember I had the Captain America. It was Captain America 168, and I had that issue that I could put the album on, and I could actually sit there and read the comic book or follow along with the comic. So.
Well, that's cool,
that's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, adding those little extra effects in there. Plus, that sounds really cool.
And that's at 230, you said?
That's 230 backers.
Cool.
And then the last stretch goal we have up is at 250 backers, and that's an enamel pin.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Oh, yeah. I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah. I've had my eye on it. You know, those have gotten kind of popular. I see a lot of those at comic shows now. People putting them on their backpacks and their lanyards and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, a cat and mouse pin would be rocking.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have me a baseball cap with all sorts of, Epcot pins and stuff like that, So I feel you. I think that would be great. And we're going to try to help you guys out a little bit by adding our own special Power Hour stretch goal, man. Person number 200 getting a complete set of the original Cat and Mouse series, 17 issues, plus the promo issue that came out. I think it's even the special edition promo. I think that's the one we ended up ordering. So the 200th backer, they're going to let know that they're getting this entire set for whatever they pledged. It doesn't matter. I'm hoping you're going to pledge like $7,000 or something. But if it ends up being the $4 pledge, that's what it is. And you'll get a whole set of comics for $4, guys. So get out there and let's hit that 200 before the show's over.
And like you said, thanks to Captain Joel of Big Dog Comics. I mean, these are nice and crisp for the collectors out there. I mean, very fine, very, very nice looking copies. So yeah, definitely, we can't wait to share them with that number 200.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we've reached about the halfway point in our show right now. I think a little over the halfway. But like we said, we wanted to throw a little bit of Name That Game in here tonight. So what do you guys think? You want to take the challenge and see if you can pinpoint these classic video games?
Absolutely, man. And like we said earlier, too, for all of our fans watching, if you guys have any questions for this awesome knowledgeful, creative team here, definitely throw them in the comics and we will relay them to them. But yeah, man, let's get to it. Why don't we get to some Name That Game?
Yeah, as soon as we get back from the Name That Game, we're going to do Q&A with the audience. So, all right, but let's jump over here. All right, everybody, we got a special super large edition of Name That Game tonight. So we're going to throw up the image here in a second. It's a single still image of a classic video game, man. We want you guys to shout it out in the comments what the title of this game is. You got to nail the title exactly, man. We'll let you know if you're close. It doesn't matter if you're the first person to guess the right answer or if you're the 50th person to guess the right answer. You will get some credit for your answer one way or the other. And we're going to let Roland, Dean, and Barb shout out their guesses while they're looking at the image too, and maybe help get some of your guys' juices flowing out there. So is everybody ready? You guys ready? All right, here it comes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what do you guys think this classic game is? I'm sure you at least recognize some of the characters, right?
Yeah, I absolutely know the characters.
It's Wolverine, I can tell that.
It's Wolverine and Colossus.
Wolverine Colossus.
Yeah,
So-
and how weird is it? They're fighting each other, right? Isn't that weird?
Is this the Capcom X-Men?
Oh man! Oh, you're right on. Do you happen to remember what that subtitle was?
The subtitle.
Oh, what was that?
We're definitely going to give.
I can see it because it had 4 buttons around the screen.
Yep.
You could sit there and play. 4 people could play at the same time.
Team Cat and Mouse is definitely going to get some points for just nailing that, nailing the developer on that one too.
Good job, Roland.
The comments over here, they're definitely throwing down X-Men. All right, guys, we definitely know it's X-Men. If you guys can throw in that subtitle that went along with this, honestly, probably the first comic book fighting game that at least I could think of. Why don't you go ahead and throw that second picture up on there? They can see.
We'll throw a little bonus picture here.
There you go. I mean, just look at this. I mean, I know a lot of these fighting games and stuff now. They have
graphics. Oh,
yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
They come out great on the new HD stuff, don't they? just like you remember.
It's Versus, isn't it? Isn't that the title? Versus.
We got our good buddy Big Steve in the comments. He threw it down. It's X-Men: Children of the Atom. So that was the full title.
Nice work.
But absolutely, yeah, definitely big ups to Big Steve, and like we said, Roland, definitely a good callback there with the Capcom release, because actually this started off before there was any Capcom versus Marvel versus Street Fighter, any of that stuff. So yeah, definitely this is very classic in the
it's kind of the predecessor to that game. And I have to say, how cool is it that they have like Omega Red and the Silver Samurai? For such an old game, that's baller, man.
Absolutely, man. Anyone have any clue over there? Who's that chick over on the far right, like the one with the 6 arms? I remember I had her action figure, but I can't remember her name. Anybody know that one?
No.
She was some, but we actually do have
Spiral. It's Spiral.
Is it
Spiral?
Is it Spiral?
Nice.
Oh man!
See,
there
look
we
at
go.
that. Bonus points for Team Cat and Mouse, man.
Absolutely. Now we got one other bonus question, real quick for everybody, and this one definitely dives in deep into the video game knowledge. But like Roland had mentioned, Capcom did develop this game. Also, they're known for another fighting game, Street Fighter. What Street Fighter character was a hidden boss in X-Men: Children of the Atom?
Now, just to let Team Cat and Mouse know, now that Big Steve has kind of joined the comments, he's going to get this in like 10 seconds. he likes to give everyone about 20-second head start, and then he'll put exactly what the title is.
Oh, we got Rita Hayworth as one. I don't think that's one, Rich Steve, but good guess.
Oh shoot.
We have a guess for Magneto, but he wouldn't be hidden if he was right there on the cover, man.
And Big Steve, he's a Street Fighter character.
Yeah, it's a Street Fighter character that's hidden in this X-Men game.
Oh, what's that guy's name? Start with a B.
Go ahead, just start guessing every every Street Fighter. Yeah, there's only like 8 of them, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's like
I want to help Roland out because I know who he's thinking of.
What about Ryu? R-Y-U.
Oh, Ryu. That's a good guess. He's probably definitely the most well-known good guy in the Street Fighter universe. We got some other.
big dude.
We got Bison, Zangief, Beast. Cheryl threw out Beast. Well, Beast would be a cool character to have in the fighting game, but
like Bondo or something like that.
Big Steve said Juggernaut.
He's just trolling us now because he knows who it is. I know he knows who it is.
I'm in Deadpool too.
Oh, look, Fred M is helping Roland out. He's saying Blanca is the guy you're thinking of that starts with a B.
Okay, but that's not who I'm. That's not who I'm thinking of as the villain, though.
Yeah,
you know what? I've got Street Fighter comics back there.
That actually matches up real good. We know that there was a Street Fighter comic from Malibu. I remember going to the comic shop specifically to get that issue.
Yep.
All right, well, we're going to leave that bonus question open, man. If someone happens to nail it in the comments, we'll get back to you guys. Oh, did he get it?
Big Steve got it. He was
messing around.
If you show him the picture, let's get to it. Sorry.
Oh, this was the title here, Children of the Atom.
There we go.
Akuma.
Yeah.
Akuma.
Pretty brutal character.
Come on, everyone remembers Akuma, right?
I think he was a hidden character in like 3 different games. But
all right, that'll wrap it up for some Name That Game for right now. Thank you guys so much for playing with us. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're back here in the studio, and definitely, like we said before we went to Name That Game, if you guys in the comments have any questions, be sure to throw them down there. We'll relay them here, and we'll get you some answers. But we have a wealth of knowledge and experience.
We have a master inker, a master penciler, and a master writer here who've worked all throughout the industry in Malibu Comics, DC Comics, Marvel Comics, every which way you can think of, doing all sorts of great stuff, guys. And if you ever wanted to ask an industry professional in the comics world how to get started, the best things to do, if you want to ask them about a personal book, you can ask them about something. If you want to ask them about Cat and Mouse or how to use Kickstarter, they're here to answer some questions for you guys. I know we got one question in the comments where they said they wanted to know if I was Mexican. I'm not Mexican. They do call me El Bandito, but it's only because I steal ladies' hearts.
Now I know earlier.
Watch out, Barb. Watch out up there.
I saw.
We fear no question, so bring it on.
Now
Bring it.
I saw a question earlier this evening. Someone had asked each of you who are your favorite heroes from your childhood. Like we know you guys got started back with Malibu and stuff, but if you think back to when you were a kid reading comics, who would you say was your favorite hero?
Oh gosh, when I was a teenager, I was hooked on Warlock.
Warlock?
Oh, nice.
Okay.
I didn't wear it. I was a teenage girl. I didn't wear hardly anything.
That's awesome.
Women can be just as shallow as men.
How about you, Roland?
For me, it was.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Dean. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
for me, it was Batman, over at DC, and at Marvel it was Spider-Man when I first got started. So it was the major characters, but I also sort of liked the off the reservation characters. Like I liked Werewolf by Night, and I also liked Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Oh, there
Those
you
were
go.
lesser known characters, but they had a cool, again, a sort of supernatural twist to them that I always liked, and I miss that sort of horror element in comics nowadays. I think that's a genre that they sort of got set aside, and maybe we could bring it back and be kind of cool, anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you, Dean, because I was always a big Spider-Man fan as well. I probably got more prints of him in my room than anybody else. But yeah, Moon Knight, every time I read a book about him, I'm like, why don't I see this guy more? Like, he's got a really cool backstory, the whole ancient Egypt stuff and all that, how it all ties together. It's just really neat, and it just feels totally underutilized.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
And we've got some of those. Dean's tossing in some of those horror elements. Obviously, New Orleans, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tossing in some of those, certainly in the art.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, with Voodoo and the French Quarter, and you were talking about that, the fortune tellers out there. I mean, that's going to be a world of fun. I mean, what a great place to kind of set your guys' book. I think that's awesome.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So for me, it was I was a Marvel zombie. So the first hero that really caught my eye was Captain America.
Nice.
And so I started reading the Avengers because of Captain America. But then there you go. But I quickly became a huge fan of the Vision. This is before any of the movies and before anyone knew who the Vision was.
Sure.
Right? I was a huge fan of the Vision, but then also Spider-Man. So those are probably my three favorites.
Iron Man for me all the way.
Nice.
Well, I know
it's Tony Stark for you.
Well, I know everyone always says, "Hey, who's your favorite Batman villain?" But let's ask, who is everyone's favorite Spider-Man villain? He has just as crazy as a gallery of as Batman. What would you guys say?
Yeah, Doc Ock for me as well.
Yeah.
Did you throw down
Green
one?
Goblin.
Green Goblin.
Yeah,
Okay,
iconic.
Absolutely.
You got to go with the guy that kills his girlfriend, right?
Right. I mean, that was because Spider-Man's villains are arguably some of the most colorful, bizarre, horror-themed, animal-themed, just weird stuff. And they didn't do as well of a job, I don't think, with Green Goblin still as they could at bringing him to life in live action film. But man, what a crazy idea! I mean, a guy with a split personality who dresses like a Halloween goblin and sees Peter Parker as his son, almost. I mean, it was a weird sort of Hamlet thing going on. I mean, if you look a little bit deeper into what's there, I mean, that's sort of his foster father that he never had. It's almost a Vader thing. I mean, it's very thematic. It's very mythical. So I think that's why that Green Goblin character as Norman Osborn keeps coming back and it's back right now. I don't know if you're reading the current continuity, but they've got another version.
The Red Goblin. Yeah,
right.
Pretty brutal. I'd have to say one of my favorite Spider-Man villains would have to be Mysterio. I've always liked his theatrics and just how you never really wasn't sure if it was a robot or just some illusion that he was throwing on. And we were just very excited where a few weeks ago we heard that he's been cast in the upcoming movie as, what was it, Jake Gyllenhaal?
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah.
So how about you, El Bandito? Who's your favorite?
I don't even know if I could pick a favorite Spider-Man villain. That's such a tough question because I'm such an insano fan. I think Dean is really onto something talking about how totemistic the majority of his villains are. They're all these kind of animal-themed villains, and he's the only person that kind of has a rogues gallery like that, which seems to make so much sense to theme your whole rogues gallery, and it's kind of what made the Sinister Six so cool. But then you always end up with like the Hobgoblin or the Green Goblin that you're like, these guys seem so out of the wheelhouse for what Spider-Man's normally fighting that they seem to throw him for a loop.
The Lizard's another classic, like the Sandman. Those characters,
Lizard,
absolutely, such good. Oh, we got some more questions throwing down here in the comments. That was a great one.
Hold on, let me hit you guys up with one because I want to do a follow up to kind of that first question we asked. Have any of you gotten to work on your favorite characters that you mentioned?
Yeah.
I spent 2.5 years on Impulse, and I absolutely adored the teenage Flash character, so that was a big plus for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Dean.
For me, I got to draw Batman and Robin, and I would just very draw a lot of the Bat family in a one shot, and to me that was like, yes, it was like playing for the team you always want to play for. I was like, yes, okay. Still haven't got to do a Spider-Man thing though. Maybe someday we'll see. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when he was in like 19 books a month, so you'd think you'd have gotten a shot somewhere in there. Jeez.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, no. The closest I ever came was when Marvel bought Malibu, and then Spider-Man came on my paycheck.
Well, Roland, you write all those erotica fanfics about Spider-Man, though, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, we
Spider-E Man.
The gooey web of Spider-Man.
Oh.
Okay, we do have some other questions here from our audience, so I'd like to throw out there. One of them here says, "How? Oh man, I put this font too tiny over here. How long has the iteration of the comic been in development? Like,
So
how long
Cat
did it
and
guys
Mouse, yeah.
to kind of get Cat and Mouse from idea to where it's at now?"
So I'm gonna assume they mean the new one.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. So I'd say probably 6 years or so. It's one. Cat and Mouse is one of these things that the book ended around 92. And it's the kind of thing where I go to shows, people would always, and I've done, lots of other books, but people would always kind of come up to me, oh yeah, this is a good book. So when are you bringing back Cat and Mouse? Well, I don't know. I got this thing here. Check it out, right? But it seemed to be the one thing that people always asked me about, and for one reason or another, it was never the time or the stars didn't align. It just wasn't the right time. And about 6 years ago, I guess, probably about the time that I moved down to down to Florida, actually, I started thinking about it. This could be the time. And I talked with another guy for a while, and he did some stuff, but ultimately he wasn't able to work it into his schedule. And Dean and I had been talking not about Cat and Mouse, but we'd been talking about a different project.
Mm.
And he wasn't even aware. He had seen some Cat and Mouse stuff, but he wasn't even aware of anything going on with the other artist. And just kind of out of the blue, we were talking about this other project. Just kind of out of the blue, he said, "What about Cat and Mouse?" And of course, my immediate response was, "Dude, don't tease me," because I've always been a fan. Even when I was his editor, I've always been a fan of Dean's work,
Mm-hmm.
and so. One thing led to another, and so we literally put the brakes on the project that we were working on. We'd already done a couple of pages, had a script done a few pages, Barb had inked some pages. we had already done some pages, but when he brought that up, I'm like, if you are on board for this, I would absolutely love to do it, because I do think the time is right now. So the story morphed a little bit, obviously, with Dean coming on, but it's kind of something that was born. The story was something that was born about 5 or 6 years ago, probably about the time, because the theme that we have is human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about, it's not the stereotypical superhero kind of thing, yeah, because and it's not, because really what we're doing is we're kind of taking on the idea of human trafficking. Obviously it's a comic book, so we're trying to colorful it up,
Sure.
But I saw some specials and did some reading on human trafficking, and was just floored by how much goes on in the United States that we just have a tendency to turn a blind eye to. And so because of that, I just thought, who's the perfect characters for this? That's Cat and Mouse. That is right up their alley. And that's kind of how that concept was born, and then getting Dean into it, and then Barb, and then Kevin. So
now, when you guys, even probably in the original, now the story's always taken place in New Orleans. That's always
Yes.
been the. Now, did you guys spend some time living there, or have you visited a lot? Like as far as like going back and seeing maybe how things have changed to maybe work.
Yeah,
into the book?
Bishop in the comments here, the guy who said he already pledged his reward since watching the show. He used to live real close by there, and he loves it. So he's sending me some nasty comments for trashing it. But yeah, he wants to know if you guys ever spent any time there, or if you went back to kind of prep for this book.
Well, I'll answer first because mine might be the longest answer. But for me, the answer is yes. I grew up in Mississippi, and I went to school at University of Southern Mississippi, which is in Hattiesburg. Now, Hattiesburg is about an hour and a half-ish away from New Orleans. And as you might imagine, as a college student, I made several trips to New Orleans. Yeah. But also as I began to break into the industry, New Orleans was a big supporter of the early Cat Mouse. And I say New Orleans as if it was like the city supported it. But there were a lot of comic shops down there that really embraced Cat Mouse.
Sure.
And I would say, yeah, I mean, and I am forever, indebted into a lot of the comic shops that were down there. Capital City used to have a warehouse down there. And all the folks at the warehouse used to bring us in for shows. New Orleans was always incredibly supportive of me and Cat and Mouse, and not just Cat and Mouse, but the other stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, I've been to New Orleans quite a bit. The last time I went there was in 2011, I think, and that was when Wizard World had their first show there.
Nice.
Okay.
So I haven't been back in a few years, mm-hmm. but I have been back, post Katrina.
Yeah, which is kind of important. I think that's kind of what he's driving at, is the feel of the city post Katrina.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I love this next question.
Oh, well, hang on. We got to hear from.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, like Dean, you talk so much about the spirit of the city. I mean, how much of that have you experienced?
Oh, I've experienced quite a bit. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was just there on St. Patrick's Day, and it was a blast. And so again, post Katrina, it's different, but there's this new resurgence. It's alive. It is a character, and you can feel it, especially at night. And I can tell you right now, that's one of my favorite places to be. And so to be able to draw it as a character in a comic book is absolutely a dream come true for me. I can't think of another city right off the top of my head I'd rather draw as a backdrop for a crime thriller PG-13 adventure like this, mm-hmm. Where we're going to get a little edgy, we're going to get dangerous, but, it's still PG-13, mm-hmm. but there's going to be, some dark things there because Roland mentioned, this is a real issue. And it's something that we all have to address at some point and say, hey, we got to get a handle on what's going on with the human trafficking. But with that as a sort of dark backdrop, it's still going to be a fun action adventure comic book. Because let's face it, having really scary villains just makes it better.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I think the really sleek kind of downtown area of New Orleans versus the sort of old French Quarter and the ostentatiousness of buildings down there, that's got to give you tons to play off of. That just must be super fun.
Oh, it's a dream come true.
Oops, I'm sorry.
No,
for me,
go ahead, Barb.
I'm a northerner here. I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and so I haven't had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in New Orleans, but I did spend a week down there during Mardi Gras here a couple of years ago, and I fell in love with the place. The whole ambiance, it's a whole other world. I mean, it's its own country, basically. It's got this whole culture wrapped up in it, and you go downtown in the early morning, and it's even got its own smell. They wash the streets with this lemony antiseptic stuff that mixes with everything else, and it smells like nowhere else in the world. And it's the absinthe. You can get absinthe down there, and the music, the jazz musicians on every street corner, the funeral parlors that you can go into. They're on every street. That's all in neon signs. You can go in and set your funeral. It's just, I was absolutely enamored. I came home with at least 200 photos, half a dozen copybooks, and I was obsessed for months afterwards. I read everything I could get my hands on. I was totally in love.
Oh, so that's awesome, man. So yeah, we got a couple of diehard fans of the city really repping it, man. So that's pretty great. And like I said, I know I talk a little bit of trash about New Orleans, but I absolutely know the spirit that you guys are talking about, having been there. And that kind of melting pot of a city, like you're saying, all these cultures kind of coming together and embracing each other and kind of building their own new culture out of it is kind of like what in my head I'm like, why isn't all of America doing that? Like, we spend so much time being like, this area is for this culture and this area is for that culture, when we could be the biggest melting pot in the world. We just got to get in there like some bean dip and melt a little bit, So I love that you guys are showing that to a lot of people who don't normally get to see it, because so many comics are based in either fictional cities or New York City, and that's basically it. That it's great to see another real city kind of repped and really shown some love, guys. So kudos to you for that. I know Bishop is super excited about that, but we do have some other questions we want to get to. We don't want to keep you guys all night. So.
Well, how about this one? This one's a real fun one. If you guys had your pick of anyone, in Hollywood, who would you pick to be Cat and Mouse in a movie adaptation of the book?
I'd have to actually give that one some I'd have to spend some time doing some research. If you had asked me this in 1990, I can tell you who I would have given you, right? But that doesn't work today. I would have told you Nick Nolte and Meg Ryan.
Sure. At the time I could see that working now. Yeah.
Yes. But I would actually have to, because they're Mouse is 16 and Cat is 18. So I'd have to do some research to see if I could find some. I will tell you, the closest I've seen that I just went, those two might could be Cat and Mouse. They don't exactly fit perfectly the characters, but I liked their interaction and I liked their skill set and I liked the way that they worked as characters. The two characters from Leverage. Did y'all ever watch Leverage?
Yeah, I've seen the show. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the blonde girl who was the master thief there, and then the long-haired dude who was the muscle.
Okay.
I would watch them in the show, and I would say, they could be Cat and Mouse.
Nice.
And I'd have to dig. Oh, let me dig up their names.
I know Tim Roth. He's like the lead, right? So I'm
for my part, I would go with a younger version of Tom Cruise for Cat and a younger version of Jessica Alba for Mouse, because she's Hispanic American, and she's got a lot of attitude. And what I do is I don't really base the visuals exactly on models that I use, because I do use photo reference, but I use them as inspiration. And so when I first started casting it in my head, I was like, let's go for, the all-American look, for Cat, but then a little bit more ethnic, for Mouse. And it's fun to sort of springboard off of that. But like Roland says, we would have to look at who those current people are and give them just that shot, who would embody them. And audiences are soon going to know more of how the characters behave when they read the books. That will make a lot of difference as to who your preference is.
Those two actors, before Barb answers, the two actors are Christian Kane and Beth Ricegraf.
Gotcha. Okay.
I actually don't have anybody in mind, because I would have to watch the CW for a while before I can.
Yeah.
Well, I can definitely relate to the fact that they're that they're such young characters to try to fit a mold to that in your head. Yeah, I could definitely see that being a challenge, because it's easy to be like, someone would have been perfect, but they've
aged out.
Out of the age group that likes to watch Teen Wolf, so you need a little research on that.
I think you nailed it. Yeah, with the CW thing, I'm thinking because the Flash has such a young cast. That they look right up that alley. I think the Arrow folks might be a little too old for what you guys are thinking. But, maybe even Supergirl. Some of the cats off Supergirl are pretty good. The guy that plays the Daxamite, he was a pretty young, all-American looking guy. So,
Sure.
He could put on a couple more pounds of muscle. I'm just saying he could hit the gym. I think he's doing too much yoga. He needs to be lifting.
Well, we have a very, like I said, our audience is always very interactive, and a good buddy of ours, he loves comics. He's a huge collector, and he threw down this question.
He's our big money collector. This is the guy that's like, I have a Fantastic Four #1. It's clamshelled, sealed, and certified, and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. So Roland, he wants to know what jewels you've got in those boxes hiding behind you there.
Well, I can tell you, I'll tell you my prize. My prize jewel is the Avengers #1, signed by Stan Lee.
Wow, dude, yeah, that's pretty epic right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We would
and people ask me all the time, is it slabbed? And I say no. I don't get into the slabs, because if it's slabbed, I can't open it and look at Stan Lee's autograph, and I can't read the doggone thing. I can't smell it if it's in a slab.
No joke, man. We're huge proponents of that. Like, don't slab stuff, because if you can't read it, then you just got a photo of the comic for all I care.
I actually had someone tell me the other day. They said, after you run your Kickstarter, what you need to do is you need to print out about 10 copies, and you need to send it to be slabbed. I'm like, why? Yeah. Well, you can send them to me because there'll be pristine copies, and you can take those and sell those for outrageous amounts. And I'm like, I want them to read my comic.
Yeah.
You don't understand. I don't want it to. If I'm going to slab it, why don't I just print the cover? And here's the cover.
Exactly. And that's the thing, as the writer, that's got to be something that you're like, dude, that's ridiculous. Why would I ever do that? But for Barb and Dean, I know you guys probably do whole books, and then they put some other person's stuff on the cover. So that's got to be kind of a bummer for you guys too, right?
Yeah. It's always frustrating to not get a shot at the cover, but this one is all us. I mean, it's me and Barb, everything, the cards, the covers, the whatever, everything is us. And again, that's part of this whole freedom aspect of the Kickstarter and creative control, man. And it's in getting directly to the audience. I can't emphasize enough the power of that opportunity to be able to reach out and give what's in our head and go right to the audience and get responses. Like, we're getting responses live right now, which is awesome. But we're about to get responses from when the book's distributed. I can't wait to see what people think. That's the exciting part of it.
And Barb, how do you feel about that slabbing books? What's your take on it?
I have very few of my comics are slabbed. I have the entire first black and white run of ElfQuest. I've got it bagged and boarded, but not slabbed.
Nice. So you're a real fantasy fan over there, aren't you?
Yeah.
I dig that. I'm going to hit you up on WoW later. I know you're on there.
They're the ones that actually got me into comics. I was a painter before I was an inker, and Warp Graphics hired me to do a painting for their convention booth. And during the course of doing this painting, I studied what she was doing, and I said, you know what, I can do that. And I went ahead and did it. But I was a fan before that. I was a huge fan of ElfQuest, but they were very much instrumental in inspiring me to do comics. So cool. I have the entire black and white run. I've got the unopened bagged editions of Solitaire #1, which I inked. I did the entire run of Solitaire. I have the #1 edition of Planet of the Apes, which I inked, yes. Which is also, it comes in a sealed bag that has never been opened. So I've got a few of those things around.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. We've gotten a couple of comments in here of people who want to know what got each of you started in books. Is that kind of what got you started? Was the experience you just described?
Yes, absolutely. I was absolutely inspired. I was a huge fan of Wendy Pini's for 2 or 3 years before I actually got into comics. And then I went to a convention, and the people from Warp Graphics saw my paintings and hired me, and that was absolutely what launched me. I was so on fire after that I hauled a portfolio out to San Diego. It had everything in it, plus the kitchen sink, which is exactly the wrong thing to do. And everybody told me that. It's like, why are you bringing all this stuff? But I sat in on a seminar that Dick Giordano gave, which was truly inspiring, and went home and practiced for a year, and I just made lines. to learn my control with the brush. And then I came back the next year and Malibu hired me. That easy.
Yeah, that easy, right? That's awesome, though. All right, Dean, how about you? What kind of got you your big break there? What got you started?
Well, what got me inspired to do comics originally was a Star-Lord magazine-sized comic by Chris Claremont and John Byrne, inked
classic.
by Terry Austin, later inked me. That was the first time I thought, I really want to do this. This is so cool. The one that really got me to try to submit work, was Jim Lee on X-Men 271. I think it's just that era of late 80s, early 90s X-Men, some of my favorite work. And so I started practicing getting pages together, and I was making copies of the pages, and Roland walked in to the shop where I was, and he said, "Hey man, those samples look pretty good. Where do you trying to get working comics?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, actually, I'm about to move out to Malibu. I just got a gig as an editor with them." And so that was just an amazing meeting. And then one thing led to another, and I got my first break drawing the Ferret with Malibu Comics, which has the unique distinction of having the very first completely die-cut #1 comic book cover for a superhero comic.
Nice.
And then that led to the Nightman, which I did a few of those for Malibu. Some of you might remember because it even became a TV show for a little while. And that then led to DC work and Dark Horse work. And I got to do things like Batman and Star Wars, and even a story with Wonder Woman. So I got to do, some of the marquee content. And, so again, I was just a fanboy at heart, who got to live the dream. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, we're very fortunate, too, to get to experience your work on the back end of that, man. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now, Roland, we'd like to hear what kind of got you kickstarted. Like, as far as writing, were you always writing comics, or do you have a different path in mind?
Yeah, I was always writing comics. Comics is what taught me to read. When I was a kid, I was not a reader. I had zero interest in school. I had zero interest in reading. I used to play outside all the time. I'd come home from school and I would just play outside. I was an outside kid, come from a family of farmers, and all I wanted to do was just spend my time outside. My mom, in her brilliance of being a mom, was always searching for, and I was falling behind the other kids in school and reading because I had no interest. And because she was brilliant, she was seeking those ways to try to get me to read. And one time in a Kroger, probably, I did what a lot of kids do when I spotted something that shined out at me, which was an Avengers comic with Captain America on it. I said, "Mama, can I have it? Can I have it? Can I have it? Can I have it?" Right? And she made a deal with me at that point in time. She says, "I'll buy this for you on one condition." And I said, "Oh, anything, Mom, anything. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. Mine, right?" And she said, "If I get this for you, you have to read it." And I said, "Oh, of course, of course." Well, she did. I read it. I loved it. It had a cliffhanger, and I had to know what happened to Captain America in the next issue. And thus she began to feed them to me, a month at a time and an issue at a time. And that's what developed my love of reading. And of course, then over time, I caught back up with my classmates, and because I was probably in about fourth grade at the time, and I caught back up with my classmates and began to kind of pass them because, as you know, reading comics leads to other things. It led me to science fiction and that sort of thing. And then when I was, in sixth grade, probably, because I loved comics so much, I just started doing them myself. I just started whipping out notebook paper and I didn't know any better. I just notebook paper, and I would draw, a lot of the what if things that the kids always did. What if the Hulk and the Thor fought?
Oh yeah.
This is before we had all those kind of books, but I was doing a lot of those, and then by the time I got into high school, I was creating my own characters. Now, admittedly, a lot of them were riffs off of Marvel characters or even DC characters. A lot of them were riffs.
Sure.
But I was making my own stories. I was making my own stuff up. They weren't very good, but I was doing it.
Yeah.
And when I went into when I went into college, I knew that I wanted to write. My problem was I come from a family of farmers, and my dad said, "How are you going to pay your bills?" And I said, "I have no idea." And we didn't know it. And I'm a first generation college student, and no one knew how I was going to pay bills writing. So I went into computer science when I went into college because that was the big thing in the 80s. And I took computer science for 2.5 years before I realized I don't want to do this. There's way too much math. But now that I've been in college, I see all those people over there. They're in the creative writing program, and that's what I want to do. And so I made the shift, and as soon as I made the shift, I started sending out submissions to Marvel and DC and all these First and Pacific and all these other independent companies at the time. And I mean, that's kind of, then I met Stephen Butler at college, and his roommate was Mitch Bird, and those are the guys that I did Cat and Mouse with, and we all broke in at the same time. In the late 80s and during the black and white boom of comics. So, yeah, I do other kinds of writing too. But yeah, comics is always what I wanted to do.
It's so funny. You're describing that story of your mom bringing you comics to try to help you read. All I can think is, isn't that the origin story for Mr. Glass in Unbreakable? That's why he became a villain. Was because he was reading.
Well, little did you know.
No, I'm just messing around though. But that's awesome though. So it's funny because all you described a scenario that seems very much a product of the time. Where nowadays with the kind of boom that they've had with films and TV stuff and everything, I've noticed that by the time I was in high school to by the time I got into college, you can no longer free submit to these major companies. They're getting too many just people throwing them stuff that they just completely shut that down. Where I remember as a kid, you used to be able to go to, Marvel or DC website and they'll give you an address where you could mail them stuff. And they even used to have a script. And you download the script and you draw it and send it back, and and now they're just like, no, dude, don't send us anything. So
I could probably give you both addresses still.
Well,
back in the 90s, you used to be able to snag an editor at a convention booth and say, "Do you have 5 minutes to sit down and look at my stuff?" And they would be happy to. Oh my God, you cannot even get sight of one now.
Yeah.
At a convention, you have to make an appointment weeks in advance to sit down with them at a convention. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, that's good for kind of the industry. We hope it continues to grow and builds and develops new ideas all over the place. But what would you guys say to someone who was trying to kind of get into this field now? Because that's another popular question we have here. And, obviously, they can pledge reward and talk to you guys and get a critique on their work, and that's definitely going to help them out. But just if you want to give them a little sneak peek or a tidbit of kind of what your thought process is on what they should be doing to kind of hit that mark. Barb, let's start with you. We'll go ladies first.
Well, a lot of people are working their way up by starting small, having a unique idea. Look at Art Baltazar, for example. Another friend, he lives down here in Chicago.
Okay.
He had something so totally different, so not conformist, that it brought attention to his work, and DC jumped all over it. I mean, they were happy to see it. You have to have something a little bit different, or else you need to start in the indies and build a following before the big two will say, they have quite the following. Maybe we can make some money. Otherwise, you really have to be persistent. I mean, basically, that's what it boils down to, is just unwavering persistence. You got to hammer away at it and never get discouraged, because if you give up, you're done.
Great advice. Great advice. Dean?
Well, the main thing I can tell artists is you have to create your reputation online first, and Barb hit on this already. Build a following and create a fan base and a presence for yourself on the internet. It's a different game now. It's no longer a game of submitting at cons or submitting over the mail. It's a game of this is the number of fans I already have that I can bring to the table. And quite often, even that's not enough. A lot of times what Marvel and DC do now is they look online to find their new talent. They shop for the talent now because of this new library, which is the internet. Basically, just go to the library and look at everybody's portfolio and decide who you want to contact. And so it really is, to stand out, again, Barb hit on this as well, you have to do something very unique and do your very best work and be consistent, get it online, get a following. That is your best chance for breaking in. Starting out, really realizing that you're going to have to start out small. You're going to have to start out with independent work. You're going to have to get noticed and build a fan base. Even that's no necessary guarantee, but that's your best card to play if you want to play for the big two, Marvel or DC.
So definitely both of you agree that kind of just putting in the work on the front end and building your own audience ahead of time is really going to be a big stepping stone. But as far as that goes, are you guys very traditionalists in the sense of do everything on paper? Do you guys do any computer work? Do you think people should be looking into that and getting skills in that as well?
Well, from that's a great question, and I'll jump on it here first. The best thing to do in that is use your skill set based on what you respond to and what your best creative outlet is. A lot of the younger artists now go directly to an Windows tablet, which is just digitally creating the art on a pad, and it goes directly into the computer. There are advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are, of course, that you already have a piece of digital art that's easily printable and deliverable. The disadvantages are you don't have that old-fashioned, classic, original art that you can sell for however much it may bring someday. And also, to frame and admire and put on your wall and so on and so forth. So you've got to choose which route you want to go. Personally, I do it the traditional way. It's pencils on paper. I scan it into the computer. I do a little bit of editing if that's necessary in terms of cleanup work and highlights. But other than that, it's pretty much my raw traditional pencils. They get scanned into the computer and go to Barb. I am trained in graphic design as well, so I can go into Photoshop and do a little bit here and there. I've even colored my own pencils before, but I prefer if I'm on a team like I have, where I have full confidence in every member of the team, I'm that old-fashioned guy. I sit down, I draw it, I scan it, it goes to Barb, she inks it, it goes to Kevin, he colors it, boom, it goes to Roland, scripts it, letters it, it's ready to go.
Very cool. And Barb, what about you? Do you use any computer
add
stuff?
to that a little bit. This is very much a digital age, and I suppose some people would think we're dinosaurs. There are advantages to having.
Oh, that looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Very nice.
I was against scanning it into the computer and shooting it to me via Dropbox. I printed out on blue lines, and at first I didn't like the blue lines. I wanted the original pencils to work on, but I quickly learned the advantage to that. I print his pencils out on a Brother Pro printer in blue lines. The advantage to that is I get to keep all of my inked pages now. When I worked for DC and Marvel, I got a third of the pages, and the penciler got the other 2/3. Now I get to keep all of the original artwork. The downside to this is that because of the way this is all done digitally, DC and Marvel contract any artist anywhere in the world, which means that American artists are at a huge disadvantage now because the cost of living in other countries is so low that they can contract out on lower prices.
Sure.
And we can't make a living on some of the page rates that people offer now. So we have to have secondary jobs to bring in an income. But I still do like the new digital way of printing out the blue lines. I will scan it back into the computer when I'm done inking it. And I'm an old-fashioned inker. I use liquid ink, brushes, pens. everything just exactly like they used to do way back in the old days. But I will scan it into the computer. I'll pull it up in Photoshop, and I'll drop the blue, any blue that remains, clean up anything that I can see, and then drop it into Dropbox for the colorist. So I am a little bit into the digital age, but
okay.
Still dinosaur.
No, that's cool though. I mean, it's great to have that classic look and feel to a book. You can certainly tell the difference when you see something digital, because it's almost always too clean, which kind of takes away some of the feel of a good book. So, you know, I'm a big proponent of the classics. Again, I had no skill in actually doing anything with my hands, so I do everything digital that I do.
There are some fantastic digital artists out there, but
yeah.
I happen to like the more organic look of hand-done art.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that both of you, though, are proficient in using, you know, a Photoshop or something to kind of accentuate your work, but you guys sound like you don't do that a super ton, though, huh?
Yeah.
No?
It's a tool.
Yeah. Sure.
It's just another tool in the toolbox.
Sure, but not a crutch by any means. So that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and Roland, as a writer, you're going to have a totally different take on what it's like to kind of break into the field, I would assume, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's totally different, but the one thing that I would say is that because of the digital age that we live in, there's never been an easier time to do your own comic. One of the things I teach creative writing at Full Sail University here in Winter Park. And one of the things I tell all my students is like, look, if you have an interest in doing this at all, do it. Don't talk about doing it. Don't say, oh, I'm going to do this after I graduate. Because I always say, why are you waiting? Do it now. We have print on demand that you can go and you can print. Now back in the late 80s when we were first breaking in, if you were going to do an independent comic book, you had to do a minimum print run of 3,000 copies, which means you had to come up with all of the money. Not only did you have to do the work, but you had to come up with all of the money up front to print the book, and then hope you could sell them, right? And often you only sold 1,000 of them, so you're lugging around 2,000 books trying to sell them at shows. The beauty of print on demand is you could say, oh, I've got a convention this weekend. I want to print up 25 books, or hey, I feel really good. I'm going to print up 50 books, right? You can print up just a handful of books, and you don't have to come up with the cash to print 3,000 books and just to store them in your garage. The other thing that both Dean and Barb both hit on was the internet. You can easily now do your work, and it doesn't matter if you do it old school paper. You could scan that in, or new school on the computer. Either way, you can still get it online and still have it viewed. So I always say, if you really want to do comics today and you really want to break into comics, you must adopt the Nike slogan and just do it.
Nice.
That's really what it is, because I won't retread ground covered, but Marvel and DC, they're aware of what's going on out there. They know about Kickstarters. Now they may not support them all, but they're aware of what exists. They've got people, they're in the know. We've got a lot of them are in our circles of friends, and so they're very much aware of a good majority of the content out there in the independent market. If they see something that they like or that they want, they're going to reach out to you and say, hey, do you want to work on this book? This is something we'd love to have you do.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Man. No, that's so great. And
it's just funny because we can definitely relate to that attitude of just do it. Because, we started off doing a podcast. We didn't really know what to do or what to put out there or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're like, we'll just do it, And if you go back and listen to our first podcast, like, dude, it sucks. Like, it's really bad. But we wouldn't be where we're at now if we didn't start then. So I think that's...
And that's it.
Yeah.
Part now I will confess that I haven't heard your first podcast, so I can't compare it.
Feel free to not ever listen to it. That'd be super.
But the one thing you have to I think acknowledge is that no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're playing the piano, whether you're riding a motorcycle, whether you're writing a comic book, the more you do it, the better you're going to be.
Yeah.
And so why would you sit around and say, oh, I'm going to wait until I graduate, or I'm going to wait till I have this degree, or I'm going to wait until Marvel decides to hire me before I do all this stuff. No, do the work. And the whole time you're doing that, you're practicing. You got, in your instance, hey, you just started a podcast. All of those first episodes, you were practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Look, if we really want to get down to it, those first image books, I don't know how many of them you've actually read, but they weren't very good. Now, they looked beautiful. They were gorgeous books. They were fantastic art with some fantastic colors, right? They were gorgeous books. But if you read them, they're crap. And that's because the image guys, now they had the clout and the financial resources that they could just launch their own comic thing and learn on the go, right? Now, we could sit here and argue all day how long it took each of them to learn, but I think as the more they did, you can actually look. If you look at the early Spawn to the later Spawn, well, he learned what he was doing. He learned, and again, we could argue about whether he's a good writer or not. That's not the point. Certainly, he got better than he did from the first issue of just Spider-Man, right? Not Amazing Spider-Man. Which, that first issue of Spider-Man that Todd McFarlane wrote, I can't imagine it's going to be in anyone's top 50 books, right? But he did it, and so the process of doing it, he learned how to be better.
Absolutely. Like we always say, practice makes perfect, and like you said, Roland, it is. It's
I mean, people talk about PR, that there's no bad press, there's no bad experience. Like if you got experience doing something, you're gonna learn something, whether it was bad or good or not good. And Barb, we see your cat over there. Are you chasing her around? Is he giving you trouble there?
Yes, she's up on my comic book pages.
Oh, we don't want that.
All right, bad kitty. No.
Past time, so she's being.
Well, we definitely don't want to keep you guys all night, but thank you so much for hanging out with us so far. Do you guys have time for just a few more quick questions? Is that cool?
Sure. Fire away.
Awesome. All right, you want to hit him with one, Bull?
Yes, this one goes to Dean. We see that, actually, Steve Z, our video game expert, he's noticed that you have a Star Wars painting behind you. He wants to know, are you enjoying the current movies, or do you feel that nothing's ever going to top the classic trilogy?
I have a great love for the classic trilogy because I was just the right age when those came out. I do love the young cast of The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I think they're doing a tremendous job. I prefer the newer films to the prequels. I think these have a more organic feel and are truer to the classic spirit of Star Wars. And I just saw Solo yesterday and absolutely loved it. And I attribute that mostly to the writers, Lawrence Kasdan and Jonathan Kasdan, and then Ron Howard's direction. I hope they keep that creative team on more of the Solo movies. I think they'll be terrific. So definitely like the newer movies better than the prequels, but still the original trilogy holds a special place in my favorites list. Absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. And it looks like Roland here, we have someone asking a Troy C saying, can you please refresh his memory? When and what was your first publication?
My first publication was actually in Nexus number 70. It was a Judah the Hammer backup story. And that came out just a few months before Cat and Mouse number 1 came out. I worked on Cat and Mouse before, and then the Judah the Hammer thing came about just through my submissions to First Comics. And so I had a backup story in Nexus. And it was a Judah the Hammer story.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool.
Well, you've also got a super fan out here. Kyle N says that, Roland, you're his hero.
Oh, no. Hey, Kyle.
But I want to throw one question here Barb's way. You could tell from us being just two of the most handsomest dudes you've ever seen that we have a hardcore girl audience here. But we do have a couple ladies out here, Heather S. and Bridget R. They're both super fans of both Wonder Woman and She-Hulk, and they noticed that on your Twitter page you have worked on both of those books, and the two of them, one being a DC diehard and the other being a Marvel, they want to know which one you liked better.
Oh, that really split hairs here.
Yeah. Classic girl question to be like, let's just make more girls compete against each other.
I think Wonder Woman probably edges out She-Hulk just by a little bit, but She-Hulk was fantastically fun to work on. The editor, and I think I don't remember if it was Bobby Chase or Renee Witterstatter, but when I did that book, the penciler was amazing, but he didn't have the hair just right. And she said, "Can you give her burn hair?" And I pulled it off with great aplomb. I said, "You want burn hair, you get burn hair." So I copied John Byrne's style to the T.
Nice.
Sounds like
That's
a Bobby
awesome.
Chase thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I lean towards She-Hulk a whole bunch just because it seems like she plays the field a little more, and I'd have a shot.
Well, she's a lawyer, but I think she's multi-talented. She's a lawyer. She's a superheroine, so she does it all.
Yep.
No doubt, guys. All right, well, real quick, how about one last question for you guys before we go? And, of course, we're definitely... actually, Roland, can you tell us, where are you at on your count for your Kickstarter, man? Are we getting any action on there? What's going on?
Well, I know we had an early pledge. Let's see, we're still at 192.
192. Oh man, you guys are letting us down out there. We're gonna let you guys know, everybody's still watching out there, that we are offering up to the number 200, the 200th person. That's probably what they're doing. They're all waiting now to see if someone else is gonna put in there. We should have thought that through a little better. But we've got all 17 of the original Cat and Mouse plus the bonus promo issue that they did, and we are giving that away to the 200th backer for the Kickstarter that they're all working on. We have a link in the comments so that you guys can go right to the Kickstarter page. Whatever your pledge is, if you're number 200, you'll go ahead and get that. But don't wait and try to get the book. Come on now. Pledge the book, man. Get some of those other great... what do they call it? The
Stretch goals?
Stretch goals, yes, thank you. Let's get some more of those stretch goals because I'll get some of that stuff. So I'm stoked for that. So definitely go and do that. But
and that's the beauty of the stretch goals, is that everybody gets to you pledge for a certain reward, but when you can unlock the stretch goals, then not everybody obviously, sure. If you only get the PDF, then you don't get the hard things because we don't ship you that, right? Mm-hmm. But the people at the print levels, then everybody kind of gets the stickers and the cards and the bookmarks.
Yeah. So, the trading cards is awesome. I'm super stoked about that.
And that's classic style right there.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many old trading cards from stuff.
Yep. Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, and the art on them and stuff. They're just so cool to have, man. Put them in the binder and just enjoy them. That's so cool, man. I love the rewards that you guys are offering.
So one last time, guys, get out to the Kickstarter. You could win a full set of this here, but either way, you could get just a great brand new book. You're going to get that regardless of what you pledge. You're going to get a great story created by a wonderful team here. And we got one last question we don't want to leave dangling out there, so we'll throw it out there. And they want to know, with all of the advent of kind of filmmaking in Hollywood taking kind of a forefront seat for driving a lot of what's going on in Marvel now, do you guys feel like this Hollywood influence is good or bad for the comic industry?
I think it's fantastic because, there have been a lot of women comic book artists and comic book fans out there. I think they flew under the radar a lot. There's women comic book fans have always been there, but they always haven't been very vocal because they're afraid to, be laughed at and stuff. But they've always been there, and they're very rabid and dedicated to comics. But with the advent of the movies, they have become much more vocal. They've come out of the woodwork, and if you follow anything on Tumblr, the women on Tumblr are just rabid about comics. Yeah. You would be surprised, and I think it's given them an opportunity to come out and say, "I'm a comic book fan. I've always been a comic book fan, and I'm proud of it. And we're here to stay, and we're here to spend money too."
No, that's great because we definitely are completely against that sort of mansplaining or putting women on the spot when it comes to comics. That they're like, "Oh, but did you read this or did you read that?" Dude, if you read one comic, you can be a comic book fan. Because you could have just liked that one book. So there's no quiz, there's no test, there's no entrance exam to being a comic fan. And I'm glad that a lot of people are just kind of knocking that kind of exclusivity to being a comic book fan and just embracing the whole female presence, because we're getting great stuff from it. I mean, obviously Wonder Woman's the best DC movie they put out in like 10 years, you know?
Yeah.
But
you don't have to like Batman to be a comic fan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know? You don't. There's so much good stuff out there.
You know it.
And I will say that talking about Cat and Mouse specifically, because I want to make sure we turn it back to our Kickstarter here. One of the things that we had going for us with the first run of Cat and Mouse is that we had a sizable number of female readers who wrote letters to us.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote letters to us and they said, hey, we love the way you treat these characters, and we love the way you treat Mouse. She's not just the eye candy. She's not she's a real character. And so that always, as a writer, that always excited me, because I always thought a character as a character, their sex was secondary.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to make sure that they were a good character. And so to get those letters for the first volume was very exciting. So I anticipate more of the same.
Yes. And keep in mind, the way that the characters are growing, and this is a little tease for the future, Mouse is a superior fighter. And she's got a lot of street smarts. And while Cat is a little bit more of a Boy Scout, the characters are going to grow and evolve. And what you're going to see with this pair of characters is you're going to see them actually become the Cat and Mouse in their full uniforms or costumes. They're going to start out sort of learning and growing their way. So this is that jumping on point. You want to get in on ground floor of a new team. This is the place to be.
Yep.
Well, it definitely sounds really awesome, guys. Like you said, just the whole layout of it all, and the, just knowing, like, all right, the future's coming too, seeing where things develop. I always love that, like when you kind of like get to see how the characters start off, and then they kind of
that
evolve.
development phase of
yeah.
Yeah, that's always one of the most entertaining parts of a comic story, is people developing and learning their powers and things. And, on topic of what we're saying about this inclusivity of fans, there's a common trope, too, that even we like to joke about. A lot of people nowadays are like, oh, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. And we just come from an era where, like, if you didn't get made fun of or beat up for liking what you liked, you can't really wear that moniker, But it's great that these movies and comics today, and the backing that it has, the around the world viewing power that it gets everyone, really just makes it where everyone can enjoy these things. And that's really what it's all about. I know each and every one of you just want people to see your work and experience it and connect with them. And that's ultimately the most important thing. Sure, we'd all love to be millionaires, but we all like it when people check out our stuff, appreciate it, talk to us about it. So thank you guys so much for doing that with us tonight and talking with us tonight.
And this is one of the reasons we set our stretch goals at number of backers and not number of dollars. Because we want, I mean, yes, of course, we would love to say, oh, let's set a stretch goal for $10,000. And, who knows, maybe eventually that will be what we do. But right now we're really, hey, let's get more people involved. Let's try to have our stretch goals be number of people who are actually reading the book.
Absolutely, man. That's a great concept. I love that. I love that you made it about the book, about the story. That's so good. I'm sure that this is going to be a wonderful book, man. We can't wait for it to come out in a few days. There's only a few days left, guys, out there for you to jump on this Kickstarter to hit those stretch goals, man. Pledge anything you want, $4, and you can read the book. More than that, you can go all the way up and get just some amazing pledge rewards, including a consultation, a critique from each of them. You can get actual original art from the book. There's still a couple of those left. So there's just some great stuff out there, guys. Get out there, check it out. Check out their Kickstarter. It's for Cat and Mouse. It's a brand new sequel, whole new Cat and Mouse story out there. Again, we're gonna say it. If you're the 200th person, you're getting the whole set of the original as well. So Roland, you keep in touch with me about that. As soon as you know, let me know. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for being here with us tonight, and thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Have a good night, guys. And like we said, hopefully we'll be able to check back in a few months. Hopefully issue 2 will be coming up, and we just can't wait to hear how everything's moving along.
And we'll come talk to you again.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds great, guys. Have a good night and take care.
All right, good night.
Good night.
All right, man. Well, Bandito, what an awesome episode we've had tonight. Thank you, everyone out there, for tuning in and having fun with us. We've had an awesome crowd the whole night. Bunch of great questions. Man, it's just been so excited to talk to everyone in here.
I know. I'm getting a little bit starstruck now here at the end of the thing. I'm like, wow, I just had an amazing interview with such awesome professionals in the field, man. That's kind of something I've always wanted to do. Like they said, it's so difficult to even go to a con where people are there signing autographs and doing stuff and getting them to take 5 minutes to talk to you because they're so mobbed, they're so busy. So to be able to take the time and talk to some just industry professionals who've seen so much and done so much great stuff, it was really a pleasure, man. We can't thank them enough for that. We hope all of you guys enjoyed that. I mean, you stuck around for a whole extra hour tonight, so I know you guys must have been having fun. Make sure to get over and check out their Kickstarter, man. Just go to Kickstarter, look up Cat and Mouse in Comics, and you'll find it. And it's just, get yourself a copy of this book because it's fantastic. It's super fun, and we can't say enough good things about it.
Absolutely, El Bandito. We hope you guys have had a very happy and safe Memorial Day. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll be back next week with some real awesome stuff coming your way.
You know what? Before we disappear out here into Nowheresville tonight, just since we've got a little bit of time left on the 2-hour mark, what do you say we do one more Name That Game?
Oh, we're going to throw
for
it
all
out.
the diehards you stuck around to the end.
All right,
huh?
let's throw it out. I think they like to see it.
All right, man. You guys want to get some points. We're going to do the big screen edition.
Here we go. Bring it up. Oh, here we go, man. All right, guys. We're going to pull this out for you. Thanks for sticking around late with us. But, man, throw like El Bandito always says, throw down the name. Even if you're the second person to throw it down, you're going to get some sort of points. But, hey, man, this one, it might be a toughie.
Oh, yeah, man. It's definitely going to be hard, but it doesn't matter if you're the first person to name that game or the 70th. Copy someone else's answer once they put it down. You'll get some points, and we'll pick a whole bunch of different, first, second, third, 8th, 10th prize. Well, everybody will get, an opportunity to win a prize here at the end of the month based on the points that you have. So the game is coming right now. So get ready, get your fingers on those keyboards, and name this game.
Oh, yeah, man.
This attack helicopter.
Well, one thing we could definitely talk about this game, it was like, one of those like 1990 like rail shooters. Like you would always see these in the arcade, man. You'd see like a Jurassic Park one, and sometimes you'd sit in a car and be shooting that stuff. Now,
so does this have a gun that you hold?
Yeah, when you played this one in the arcade, you had a gun. Later on, it was ported to the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. So let's see. Is any
Apache helicopter?
Oh yeah,
you should buy one.
You got the nod. Oh man, we see someone's throwing down Cobra. Oh, that's close. Definitely.
Close.
Yeah. But man, it's definitely one that came out in that. Oh man, Rich T, man, throwing down that knowledge, man. Go ahead, throw up that second.
I feel like Rich T also threw down that angry face while he posted that too.
You think so?
He put his answer out.
All right.
So I think he's trolling us out there.
Well, hey, trolling or not, he definitely. Oh, I know.
Let's take a minute for this image. Right?
I know Rich T will enjoy this one right here. 90s video games had to have ladies in cages. Oh, look, there's Steve Z jumping in here. Staying up late with us as well. Absolutely. Revolution X.
Now,
man.
look at this. Doesn't this look like the bar we were at when that random hobo bit Rich T? I think it was. I don't remember those ladies being there, but I kind of visualize those ladies everywhere I go.
Well, throw up the title for him because Rich T got it, and so did Steve Z. We got
Revolution X.
Revolution X, man. I'm telling you. Now, here's the thing for you guys. All right, this game, wild, shooter, rail shooter. But, man, it had a soundtrack.
Yeah.
And the band was actually in the game. Go ahead and throw that name down in the comments if you know who the band was that was starring in this game.
It's a pretty popular band, guys, so you got a good shot of getting this even if you never heard the game. But also, I think this woman on the cover here is kind of a good clue as to the genre of music you may be listening to. As if the girls in bikinis and stuff weren't a good clue.
Absolutely.
Oh man, look, Tom from Daytona Beach Comic Con nailed it, man.
Oh, awesome, man! Followed up right behind with Steve Z. Absolutely, Tom. You got to throw him up on there. The classic Aerosmith, the whole band. I remember one thing about the game, man. Like as you played through, like you had to like rescue each member of the band and stuff like that. So, you know,
awesome.
Steve Tyler would be like, hey, man, like, here, have my car keys and stuff. And then you'd be in his car shooting people. Now, one thing I remember, you know, like how in these rail shooters, you'd have like a special button that would throw a grenade or something?
Yeah.
Well, in this game, it fired off compact disc, so that will really date it. Like
Nice.
that was your special weapon, was a CD.
So it was like that pizza thrower they used to have on the like from the Ninja Turtles, that toy that was like a tank that would shoot those discs. I loved that thing, man. It would shoot those discs like 500 miles an hour. That was so cool.
Absolutely. Rich T over there throwing it down. He's like, extra points for Aerosmith being in the game. That's true, Rich T. You definitely did nail it up there. But like we said, everybody's getting some points in there, so be sure to throw it down. I see Cheryl K's throwing it down. Yeah, absolutely, man. What a wild game. You know, like you had the Aerosmith soundtrack playing and you're just blasting things and shooting compact discs. It was 90s craziness.
Oh, no doubt, man. But that's the best thing about games from the 90s was that you never knew what you were going to expect. And it wasn't like the NES early days where you didn't know what you were going to expect in a way that you were like, the fuck is this? It was in that way that you're like, dude, this is rad and like kind of tarded and super fun. So
it definitely was. And it just classic stuff. Well, guys, tonight marks the last night for at least the live version of Name That Game. But over the next few days, we're going to have still a couple more rounds of Name That Game for you guys to earn some points. So definitely go and, you know, put that follow on our Facebook page, and, you know, so you get the latest updates and, you know, Instagram and all that fun stuff. But next Monday night, we will be announcing the winner of the Name That Game tournament. It's close. It's neck and neck, man. There's some real good point grabs tonight.
I know, Steve Z, you've been a powerhouse this whole time, man, but I don't know, man. Maybe somebody might have edged you out there. We've had some lightning fast fingers on the Insta, bro.
You know it, man. You know it. Now, next week, are we going to tell them the winner of this prize right here?
Do you want to tell them now, or you want to wait till next week?
Do you guys want Deadpool number 300? Do you guys want to know the answer?
Do you guys want to know who won? Throw it in the comments.
Throw it in the comments if you guys
quick. We'll
want
let
it.
you know. If you want us to wait till next week, if you haven't seen it yet, then we'll wait. But again, this was 2 weeks ago. We did our Deadpool episode. You can check it out. You know, it's up here on Facebook. It's over on YouTube and stuff like that. But we wanted to know what people's guess was. They were taking a pool on who or how fast that dude Peter was going to get killed that you saw in the trailer. It's like the regular guy that's like, I have type 2 and type 1 diabetes. And they're like, you're hired. And they took him on as part of X-Force, and he went on the mission. So we had everyone guess how long he would die. And, yeah, we're seeing a bunch of yeahs in there.
They want to see it. All right. So go ahead, El Bandito. Tell them who the winner is.
All right. Our team of analysts went through this movie with a fine-tooth comb, man. And they have ruled and regulated on the fact that he did die just slightly after 5 minutes.
Yes. So when we looked at all of our postings, who was the winner of the Deadpool comic?
It was the one and only Mr. Fusion, man. He guessed the 5 minutes, so he was the closest without going over. And again, we know no spoilers, but there are other things going down in the movie that may have doctored what some people's opinion might have had been. But this is what our analysts and our rule jockeys have decided, because he died, so it is what it is. So definitely, we're going to be getting that out to Mr. Fusion, man. So thank you guys for having fun with that. We'll be back next week with an all-new, all-fun, exciting show about some topic that we have yet to make up because we were way too wasted over most of this weekend.
And getting all excited for joining the awesome group of Roland, Dean, and Barb. Thank you guys again for joining us. We're going to get this out there. We're going to put it up on YouTube so everybody can have some nice sharing material. But yeah, thank you guys for spending your Memorial Day with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. So, can't say thanks enough. Go check out their Kickstarter. It's for Cat and Mouse, man. You can get this original whole set of Cat and Mouse if you're the 200th backer, but you can't be the 200th backer if a bunch of you guys don't actually back it. So get out there, throw them $4, $10, $20. Throw them 150, 7,000 bucks. It doesn't matter. Throw them a little bit of something, and you're in the running for this complete set of Cat and Mouse. We want to thank Big Dog Comics for helping us track this down and get our hands on this. And we want to thank you guys for joining us and hanging out with us tonight. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.